Hey guys, today I want to talk a little bit about stereo delays. So I've got a few questions about this recently. So I want to talk first about how to set them up, and second, how to use them, and a few different types of stereo delays that there are. So to get started, I want to tell you about the pedals that I'm using. The one on the right here is the El Capistan from Strymon, and this one is the Echo Park from line 6. And in regards to setting up stereo delays, the basic idea is that instead of one mono signal, you have two signals, and one left signal goes to 1 amp, and your right signal goes to your right amp. So I think a lot of people wonder how does that happen? How does your signal get turned from mono into stereo? And so I want to show you how to do that. Typically, any pedal that has two outputs will be able to turn your signal into stereo. So you can see here the El Capistan. I've got my input right here. It's a mono input and just got one cable. But over here, there are two outputs. And if you could see these labels here, you'd say this one is labeled left out and this one is right out. So I've got two cables coming out of this pedal. One coming in, two coming out. These two cables run around and over to here into two inputs on the Echo Park. So I've matched up the left output with the left input on the Echo Park, and the same with the right. And then from here we've got two outputs, and these go straight into the front of my amp. So no effects loop, just straight in the front. So there's nothing really fancy going on. If you want a stereo signal, the main thing you've got to do is have a pedal that has two outputs, and usually they are smart enough to know whether you've got a mono input or a stereo input. So for instance, the Echo Park has the stereo input. It should be able to recognize that and keep it in stereo. And like the El Capistan, it's got a mono input and a stereo output. It's smart enough to know when there's two outputs plugged in, and will give you a stereo sound. So now I'm going to let you hear how some of these sound. I'm going to give you my clean signal. I'm running a Telecaster into 2 amps this time, because that's what you need to run in stereo. You need 2 amps. I'm running a Matchless Clubman and a Matchless Chieftain. So here's the clean signal. Okay, so I mentioned there are two types of stereo delays that I would want to talk about, and the El Capistan represents the first type of delay, and that is where there is a stereo modulation on the delay itself. So the delay, overall there's one delay happening, not two or more, but the modulation on the delay is in stereo. So I've turned the modulation already off, all the way off here, so I can hopefully give you a sense of what it's doing. Here it is without a lot of modulation. So that sounds pretty normal. It sounds mostly like a mono delay. Maybe you can hear a little bit of space opened up, but as I roll this knob up, hopefully what you should hear is an increased sense of space between the left and the right. So you'll hear the modulation kind of moving between your left and your right ears here. So hopefully you can hear that. It's kind of subtle, but it sounds really nice. And so that's the first type of modulation, or sorry, stereo delay. Just a delay that has a modulated stereo modulation on top of it. So to give you an example of the second type of delay, I'm going to use the Echo Park here, and I have it set to the ping pong setting. So what that's going to do is it's going to send basically two separate delay signals, one to your left and one to your right. And they're kind of opposite from each other. Let me show you what I mean. So you hear it bouncing back and forth there. So that's a ping pong delay. There's no modulation on here. This is a digital setting, but instead of one delay up the middle that's being modulated, it's being split into two delays, one on the left, one on the right. So that just gives you a different sense of space, that there's two different things happening in your left and in your right ear. So let me show you that again. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what types of stereo delays there are. There are a couple different variations on this, but I'm not going to really go into it. And in terms of using these, I guess really the big tip for today would be if you want to run stereo and you're looking for kind of a big lush sound. Obviously, just stereo in general is going to give you a bigger sound, but I really enjoy stacking these two types of delays together. Particularly, I like putting stereo modulated delay in front of a ping pong delay like this, where you've got the back and forth delay. So we'll go back to the El Capistan here, and I'm actually going to turn them both on. I'm going to crank up the repeats, and hopefully you'll hear just a nice big washy sound. And I'm going to turn this one on, actually. So that's kind of nice. We have a darker modulated delay here. I'll even roll it back a little bit. And then a brighter ping pong delay. So that's sending your signal to the left and right, while there's kind of the darker delay feeding it in the middle. So that's it. Yeah, if you've got a pedal that has two outputs, a delay pedal, and you've got 2 amps, definitely try this. And think about mixing different types of stereo delays together. I think it gives you an even bigger and more lush sound. And last of all, think about combining different tones with the delays. So if you've got a darker delay, combine it with the brighter delay so you can fill up more frequencies with your sound. So that's it for today. Looking forward to bringing you another tip next week. Thanks.